Hi, everybody. All right, I'm a little under the weather today, so y'all gonna have to bear with me. I am Zulene Mayfield. I'm from the city of Chester, just south of Philadelphia. And in 1991, we learned that we were getting a waste to energy or trash to steam plant. And unfortunately, nobody in the neighborhood knew what that really was, when in fact, it was nothing more than an incinerator. Currently, it's the largest incinerator in the country, and it burns, I think the new stat is 33% of Philadelphia's trash. So the city of brotherly love have decided not to show us any love whatsoever. We have currently been in a battle for 25 plus years to shut the incinerator down so that our children can have a level of survivability and also the community as a whole. We all know that you can survive without eating anything, but there's nothing that you can do as far as not breathing. So the air that is generated in Chester is shared with all of southeastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and the entire world. If you can look down in the forefront of in the background of this picture, you will see the actual stack of the incinerator. This is how close it is to our children, people's homes, and to our lives. So there is no cushion. The very young and the elderly are particularly vulnerable to poor air quality. Currently, we have the highest rates of asthma in all of Delaware County and for Pennsylvania. It's 3 times the rate for all of PA and more than 2.5 times the asthma rate for Delaware County, all emanating from the pollution activities in the city of Chester. The interesting thing is that at one time, the one hospital that services Chester, they had an incinerator also. And because of many pollution violations, our persistence on getting it shut down and it running inefficiently, it polluted the city of Chester and the surrounding area. So we were able to get their permit pulled. And part of the penalties they had to do was they had to run an asthma program to track the children and to give the parents education and peer reviews. And they would actually send people out to the houses to track and see how the children were doing. Unfortunately, they have been unwilling to share any of that data from that program. So we don't know how many lost days of school that the children have actually suffered from. So they're really tight-lipped on that data, and we've not been able to extricate it from them yet. This is kind of hard to read, but I'll read just one conclusion from the Environmental Protection Agency did a risk study for Chester in 95, based partially on our insistence because we were saying that this was environmental racism, because all of the waste plants for southeastern Pennsylvania were being sited in the city of Chester at the time. And a couple of the conclusions were that blood lead levels in the children of Chester is unacceptably high, with over 60% of the children's blood samples above the CDC recommended maximum level of 10 micrograms per deciliter. Both cancer and non-cancer risks, kidney and liver diseases, and respiratory problems from the pollution sources at locations in the city of Chester exceed levels which the EPA believes are acceptable. Air emissions from facilities in and around Chester provide a large component of the cancer and non-cancer risk to the citizens of the city of Chester. If you go over to the next thing, this is one little census tract in the city of Chester during the time where the permits kept on coming. The larger area is Delaware County, and as you can see, there were virtually no waste facilities being sited in those areas. As a result, one of the things that we started doing was standing in the middle of the streets and stopping the trucks. I know you can't read the sign, but that sign says that we don't have the complexion for protection. The residents would actually, if we called for a protest at 4 o'clock in the morning, we got out there at 4 o'clock in the morning and would stop the trash trucks. And this is generally how the trash comes into the city which is a different level of pollution because as you can see, they're 18-wheelers. The trash and flies off of the top. They have leachate that comes off of the bottom. So on a daily basis, there are anywhere from 400 to 500 trucks per day that go into that facility. So we have the pollution that comes out of the stack, but we also have what I call ground level pollution that comes from the trucks and the diesel fuel and the things that are actually ground level. It's not uncommon when you come to the city of Chester, if you spend any more than 5 minutes on the street, the back of your throat will start to tingle and tense up. Your eyes, your ears, your nose will start to become dry, and you are physically assaulted by the pollutants that are there that you can feel. The top of this is an actual picture of the incinerator in Chester and some of the surrounding communities. We are less than, I think, 2 miles from Marcus Hook. So in addition to that, we also get that pollution. The bottom picture is what they will call a tipping floor. That's just trash. The trash is generally moved around by workers on the tipping floor, which generally tend to be Chester residents who move the trash around with shovels, great big front end bulldozers, and they put it onto the hopper that takes it up into the incinerator. This is a stack of the incinerator in the background. In the foreground, at one time sited in Chester next to the incinerator, was a company called Thermopure, and they were the largest processor of chemotherapeutic infectious medical waste in the nation. That meant that was any waste that came from a hospital, a doctor's office, or a facility that was in the red bag, including bloody bandages. Sometimes there would be needle sharps in it, fetuses, any nasty scum of it, just nastiness will come to Chester. And many times they would come on trucks like this. And we had to do a broad education in the community for the children because a lot of times some of the waste would actually fall off the trucks. And we had to teach our children not to touch those boxes. They will come to the office and get us, and we will go and basically secure the boxes until we would have DEP or the facility or Thermopure come and get them to keep our community safe. This was a particularly nasty facility because many of the men who worked there were from Chester and they would get stuck by contaminated needles. This is some of the members of our youth group. One of the things that we found during the pandemic is the disparity in technology and information. And we're learning that a lot of the residents either don't know how to access Zoom or don't have a way to get on Zoom, i.e. a working computer, or they haven't been taught how to do it on their phone. So when we have our bi-meeting weekly, every 2-week meetings, we weren't getting a lot of the Chester residents on the calls. So this is one of our latest campaigns, which is to get the residents re-engaged and to tell them how to get on Zoom so that we can keep this battle going. Despite what everybody tells you, the latest propaganda is that they're trying to sell incineration as a electricity generating facility. They're doing a good for the world because they generate electricity. They generate electricity as a byproduct of them burning trash. This is one of the most costliest ways to, i.e., make energy. It is much more efficient to landfill the garbage versus incineration. Currently, we get all of the trash for Delaware County, which equates out to about 29% of their capacity every day. We get basically a third of it comes from Philadelphia. The largest portion of the trash that they burn in Chester comes from New York and as far away as from Ohio and Puerto Rico. So everybody benefits off of polluting the people in the city of Chester. But the death cost, nobody is evaluating. The property damage, because most of the homes in the area have structural damages from the continuation of the amount of trucks constantly rolling. Nobody is equating it, and neither does the DEP or the EPA assess cumulative effects of pollution. They look at one polluting facility as if there's nothing else in the area. And they don't take into account the existing health of a population, nor do they care prior to them citing a waste facility. These are some of the pollutants that come out of the incinerator: cadmium, mercury, sulfur dioxide, arsenic, CO2, particulate matter, lead, mercury, heavy metals. And these are all of the things that we are being bombarded with. Some of the first actions we did our first protest on December the 22nd in 1992, because we wanted them to know that even though it was Christmas, even though it was cold as the Dickens, we didn't care, that this issue mattered to us more than Christmas. And we held our first protest on the streets of Chester. At the time, the incinerator was called Westinghouse. As a result of the numerous protests that we were having, they immediately pulled my little behind in the court and tried to give me a lifetime injunction on protesting, which I've ignored. They also tried to sue me for $1 million because of loss of business and revenue. They didn't get the $1 million, I can tell you that. So we also fought off that plant called Thermopure, that was the infectious medical waste. We protested in the state of Delaware, who at the time was sending trash to Chester. We actually went to Governor Carper's office, who was the governor at the time of Delaware, and we took him some of our trash and left it on his desk. We defeated a company called Cherokee Biotechnology, who wanted to burn contaminated soil. We have sued the Department of Environmental Protection for environmental racism, which was a groundbreaking lawsuit that everybody told us that wouldn't win. It didn't win, but it opened up the door for other people. These are some of our people. We are, despite everything that we're going through or we have to go through, we realize that we have to teach our children that this is their land, and we're going to be good stewards of this land despite everything that we have. So during the course of the years, we have community health days and community block cleanups, because just because other people have designated us as a wasteland, we want our children to have pride in their community. That's us doing what we do, protesting. And on the slide on the right, if you look hard in the back past the trees, that's the incinerator. This is a community that are porch homes. Prior to the incinerator coming, our little area, we had an 82% home owner-occupied community. Many people have been in their houses for 50 and 60 years. That is absolutely reversed now. I think the area now is 40% home ownership or owner occupied. The rest are all now rentals. People have essentially walked away from the houses that they owned, but because they couldn't sell them, they couldn't rent them, and they're damaged. But still, we continue on our fight. Eventually, we will shut this incinerator down.